Hi guys, how you going? Campbell here from Autodidactic Channel. Hope you're having an amazing day. And as always, autodidactic means to be self-educated, and we need to be self-educated in this world because they don't really tell us everything that's going on. Like the fact that there are star forts in New Zealand. So we found star forts pretty much all over the earth. And now I have found some in New Zealand as well. Decided to take a look, and it really didn't take a lot of looking to discover a few. And I'm sure there's a lot more there as well. And as you can see in front of us, we've got a photo. This is of one of the forts. This is Fort Takapuna, I believe. And as you can see, this is obviously the top of a turret or something. And it's just half in the ground. And the story with these forts, again, is... the mainstream story is that they were all used for World War II or built for World War II, but when you look into it, they actually say that they were older structures that they just improved or built upon. So it's an interesting story. So let's take a look at the star forts in New Zealand. So to start with, I just wanted to look at what are called PAs. And now I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, if it's PA or PA, I don't know. Oh, here we go. PA as in IPA. PA, I'm going to say PA. Can refer to any Maori village or defensive settlement. Okay, so first I wanted to take a look at PAs, and PA is a Maori word and can refer to any Maori village or defensive settlement, but often refers to hill forts, fortified settlements with palisades and defensive terraces, and also to fortified villages. Now this is a Maori word. PA are mainly in the North Island of New Zealand, north of Lake Taupo. Over 5,000 sites have been located, photographed and examined, although few have been subject to detailed analysis. No PA have yet been located in the early colonisation period when the early Polynesian Maori colonisers lived in the lower South Island. So what they're saying there is, from their information they've got, that all these forts were actually there before the Maoris got to New Zealand. Variations similar to PA are found throughout central Polynesia, in the islands of Fiji, Tonga and Marquesas Islands. In the Maori culture, a great PA represents the mana, the power, the strategic ability of the tribe as personified by their chief. PA are located in various defensible locations around the territory to protect fertile plantation sites and food supplies. That's what we're told the PAs are. So this is Monogawai or Mount Eden. And this, they say this is an old volcano as far as I can remember. And you can see the terraces on this all the way up, marking the sites of the defensive palisades and ditches of this former PA. So they're saying, they admit this is all man-made, and they're saying it was made as a defensive fort back in the day. So I just found that interesting that they admit that there's forts all over the place that were built, well, that were used and known by the Maoris, and they even say that they were there before the Maoris. And there's not a lot of history on them really. But yeah, I found that interesting. And here we have the other story of what these forts are. This is Coastal Fortifications of New Zealand. This is Wikipedia, of course. So the mainstream narrative says that coastal fortifications were constructed in New Zealand in two main waves around 1885 as a response to fears of an attack by Russia. That's right, as an attack by Russia. And in World War II due to fears of invasion by the Japanese, which is even further away. The fortifications were built from British design adapted to New Zealand conditions. So you see here now they're saying that they built the whole thing pretty much. They typically included gun emplacements, pillboxes, fire to control, or observation pods. Right? Camouflage strategies, underground bunkers, sometimes with interconnecting tunnels containing magazine supplies, potting rooms, etc. So down here you can see the Russian scare forts of 1855. In the 1870s, New Zealand was a young self-governing colony of Britain. It had developed no coastal defences of any consequence and was becoming increasingly sensitive to how vulnerable its harbours were to attack by a hostile power or opportunistic raider. In the aftermath of the Crimean War, Tsarist Russia seemed particularly suspicious. So, and here we have a list of the forts, and there's all these different forts all up and down the coast of New Zealand. It says here the second main wave of coastal fortifications occurred in World War II. This was mainly a response to a perceived threat of an invasion by the Japanese after the attack on Pearl Harbor from 1942 until 1944, when the threat receded. 42 coastal artillery fortifications or land batteries were either developed using historical fortifications or were built from scratch. 42 in 2 years, if you believe that. Alright, so this is from the Daily Mail, and it says, a labyrinth of tunnels with torpedo and mine stores, urban explorers swim to an abandoned New Zealand wartime island fortress, once used to defend against feared Russian attack. And then you can hear it says, built in the 1800s, Rapa Island was used as a Maori fortress, and later a military fort was built during tensions with Russia. The fort was occupied by New Zealand Army until the end of World War I and World War II. And this is it, Rapa Island. And as you can see, that has just all the markings of a star fort. We have like these pointy ramparts coming off the sides, or the pointy walls, I'm not sure what to call them anymore. You know, the internal walls. You can see there's an outside wall here too, built. You know, you can see that the water levels have changed. This would have been built when that was land. So, you know, is there more of it underwater? Probably. These round things, we see them everywhere. Now, they tell us that they were built to put cannons on, but you see these in star forts that they, you know, that weren't used as forts in the world wars, or that we're not told were used as forts. So, you just see them everywhere. But yeah, that's just very star forty. And as you can see, it's built up. There's all underneath here. It's full of, you know, rooms and corridors, and it's a whole building under there. As you can see here, you can just walk straight in. Proper rooms. This is one of those round turrets. You can see they've put like a little roof on this one so they can get up and down. And this is the inside of the roof they can open, and this is the tanks, or the anti-aircraft guns, I think. And as you can see, the two 8-inch rifle muzzled loaders and two 6-inch hydraulic pneumatic disappearing guns were in place by 1889. And it actually says that they were never used as well. So that's just another internal shot. This is interesting because this is what's around the fort. This is the military building. So this is clearly what they were capable of building. And you can see it's already fallen apart. Now this is inside the fort. This is completely different building. It's, you know, completely different materials. And it's still there. So, you know, it's very unlikely that the military built this and then they built the buildings that were above ground, very visible, just out of wood. Doesn't make a lot of sense. These are clearly retrofitted, these iron doors, because you can see they're squared off, and this is not. This is rounded. And why would you go to all this trouble of making rounded windows and all nice and all, you know, slanted sills and things if it's just a fort that you're expecting people to throw bombs at? You know, they've got all the little, you know, castle turret things everywhere. See across here? It's like a castle. But this is what they built above land. You know, probably for the officers to sit in and have meetings. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And this is one of their guns. The 2 disappearing guns of the fort were completed in 1895 and were never actually used to fire a shot. And what I find interesting of this is, see all these, what are they called, lines, grooves? I don't know, I would have thought a gun barrel needed to be smooth. Got all these holes in the wall, we see these portholes everywhere as well. And just massive solid construction, so looking very much like a star fort. And that was Rapa Island. So let's have a look at Rapa Island. And here we are on Google Earth, and this is Rapa Island in New Zealand. Let's just see if we can get a slightly better picture. But you can see clearly, you know, we see these shapes in star fort walls everywhere. That's a better picture. Not really. And like just built on the water, so this was obviously connected to land before. You can see there would have been the land going out there. And yeah, it's just been, they're telling us that it's just a fort. We've got these round holes, and as you saw, under here is just all built out. So, I mean, we don't get a story of how they did that. They don't even tell us how they built these. They just said, oh, we built, you know, what was it, 42 in 2 years. But what are they saying? That they dug this hill out, or that they built the structure and then covered it with dirt? And there's no story at all. And you can just see these indentations in the land as well. So that would have been, you know, a part of a star fort. I'd say there's, you know, a lot of it's fallen in the water. But yeah, very interesting. And where it is too, there's just not a lot around here. Not much at all. But that's what they're saying they built to defend against Russia. Well, actually, no, this one, Rapa, they're saying was an older island, but they built the defences up later on to defend against Russia and then Japan. And look where it is. Wouldn't you be putting your forts out here? Like, seriously, where there's nothing? This is, if boats are coming into this harbour, they'd be coming through here. You wouldn't have your fort there, you'd have forts here. So there you go. Rapa Island. Okay, here we have Fort Takapuna on the coast again. And as you can see, most of the ones in New Zealand, they're like the Australian ones, they're really buried. But you can see we've got this wall just popping out of the ground. Bits on top of it. We've got these, you know, walls with, I don't know, something underneath it. Probably connected to these. We've got these round bits again. And there's a building here, and if you can see the shape, it's actually got these ramparts, you know, that's like we see the citadel shape for the star forts. So Fort Takapuna, I'll show you some photos and you'll see what I'm talking about. So this is it. I've just gone into street view. You can't really see it, but can you see the sort of angles here on the roof? And behind, there is a wall you can see, and you can see the whole thing's sunk down. There's a big wall around it, but it's just all been covered up by dirt, and there's just bits of wall sticking out of the ground everywhere across here. Yeah, so looks like the citadel, an old citadel. So looks, very covered. If these were walls, you can see the whole ground level has been brought up to the height of that wall. And here's just a few pictures of it. This is it. You can see the raised walls around it. It's got, these castle-like bits on the top. Red brick building, obviously lowered in the ground. Now this is other parts of the fort around. This is the bit that we saw at the start. This, just buried. So that's obviously part of the structure as well. But we've got this structure next to it, so I'm not sure if this is original, but you can see the wall around the outside, and then we've got a double wall up here, and then we've got stuff here that's all underground and different levels. So I'm not sure what's under there, but we'll see if we can find out. So this is clearly part of a tunnel system here and here. Here's a bit of a shot so you can see how deep it is in the ground, and you can see these are these sloping, you know, typical Star Fort walls. Looks like this bit's been built in. But yeah, so this is in New Zealand, and that's, you know, the shape of this is, that's clearly a Star Fort citadel, and with the fact that it's got walls around it and all this stuff under the ground and popping out, yeah, that's a Star Fort. It's just very, very buried, because you can imagine this would have been the top, the highest part, and it's half buried, and these are, you know, just sticking out of the ground. So Fort Takapuna in New Zealand. Alright, now we have North Head, or Munguka. Gosh. Yeah, sorry, however you say that. A volcano forming a headland called North Head at the east end of the Waitemata Harbour in Auckland, New Zealand, in the suburb of Devonport, known for its sweeping views over the harbour and the Hauraki Gulf. Since 1885, the head was mainly used by military as a coastal defence installation, which left a network of accessible old bunkers and tunnels as its legacy, forming part of the attraction. The site was protected as part of Hauraki Gulf Maritime Park in 1972. The original scoria cone has been substantially altered, first by marine erosion and later by various generations of people who have occupied the headland. It was first used by Maori in the Tainui Waka, was reputed to have put ashore close by at what is now Torpedo Bay. So they're saying they've put ashore there. They found a natural spring, and then they basically turned it into a fort because they liked the slopes and it was a natural outlook. And then we have the military came along and put tunnels in it everywhere. So here we've got some pictures of the tunnels. Now this one, it's looking cementy, but see how it's all cracked off here? And it looks like, well, this looks like brick here. I can't really see what's underneath there. Let's see if we can get a better picture. And this is, I mean, that's not it. That's from Bali. This looks, you know, new, you know, like new building as far as a lot of cement. So I'm not sure, but when you look at this place, it looks, see all the terraces, and they're saying these are natural terraces, but they don't really look very natural when you sort of have a look at it. There's no real good pictures here, so we'll go and have a look at it on Google Earth, but you can see it just has all these, you know, half underground things and different levels and bits and pieces. And this is it on Google Earth. Again, we have these round bits around, and they tell us they're for cannons that they built them. Who knows? And you can see this bit here, a raised bit. It's got that kind of shape. Down here we've got another rounded bit, and there's just bits of wall sort of sticking out of the ground. Down here there's another angle. And just all this stuff, it's not built as a fort, it's just kind of, you know, it's just random bits of wall, like down here, this nice, you know, triangle pointy wall, and along here it's just built up. Now if this is for ocean, for defending against ocean ships, what good would these do? These are obviously burying something. And if you look at it, there's, you know, there's bits of wall everywhere. So it just looks like an old structure that's been covered up. Down here again, just this old, you know, just random. And no doubt there's tunnels under there. And you could imagine, you know, that if it was a big structure that's been covered, that there would be, and they'd all connect up under here. And so we'll see. Let's see if we can get down there. Get down there. lot of these, because they call them military bases, it's a good way, then they can say, oh no, you can't really go down and have a look. Okay, so we can go down here. That's all we really get. Yeah, so that's not a lot, but you can see it's definitely walls that have been covered. Like, look at that, straight up and down. It's not like a curved hill or anything. Oh, that was trippy. So yeah, this one, it's not obviously sticking out as a star fort, but it just has a lot of, features that are very star forty. Here's just another bit of random wall just sticking out of the ground. It goes up along here. Now, so what's the explanation for all this? Unfortunately, the images aren't the best. Sorry about that. Apparently Google can't keep its image quality up. But yeah, so there we go. That was another one. North Head, New Zealand. This one is called Bastion Point. And this is the same kind of thing. Now this, I'm not sure, it doesn't look like a golf course, but that's a lot of manicured lawn, isn't it? And when you look at it, no, there's just sort of strange shapes. They may just be mowing these in, I don't know, but there's strange shapes in the, in the ground. And then you come up here and you get this thing. This, I don't know, half quarter clock thing. With what look like old sort of, buildings that are half buried. It's very nice and manicured. But to be built as a fort, like, how is that defensive? This one looks like there's the circles there. They've been covered by dirt and grass. But, yeah, how is that defensive? And we've got this wall at the front with the edges. You see those a lot at the start of, on the outside of star cities and forts. So I don't know about this one, but it's just got bits that remind me of a star fort. Obviously buried, and we've got a different level down here, a wall going along. Just stuff in the ground that looks like triangles. But of course that one has been completely covered over as well. And here, look, we've discovered it. This is the long white cloud of New Zealand. Haha. Yes, New Zealand, land of the long white cloud. Oh, it is long. There you go. And this is to show you as well, Google Earth is just made up of pictures, all put together, all little squares. So, we're looking at this stuff, and, this is all real, I'm pretty sure, but as we go along, they cover up more and more things. You used to be able to see stuff on the bottom of the ocean. Can't anymore, really. I found a couple of things, but I doubt as soon as the word gets out, they will disappear. This is Takapuna, or Mount Victoria, Fort Victoria. And this is the same kind of thing. It's on a hill. It's buried. They're calling it a fort. They're saying they built it, but when you look at it, like, where's the fort? Where is it? Oh, we've got this round bit, and they'll say that was for a cannon or an anti-air gun thing. We've got this round bit here, clearly sitting on a point, something, a wall or something. Down here, just this random bit of wall sticking out of the ground. You can see it goes into the dirt there, comes out around, and then just sort of disappears under the ground again. Got pointy bits down here, so it's just got all these, you can't look at that and say that's definitely a star fort, but it's just got lots of bits and pieces that remind me, and it's just random. It doesn't look like a fort. This is one of the forts that they're saying they built to defend against either the Russians or the Japanese. And that one's just kind of just in the middle. It's just, I don't know, I guess it's on a high point, but it's got one anti-aircraft gun. And just, this looks like a wall down here, the tops of walls coming around here, see that? Just all these shapes in the landscape. Down here again, another wall. So you can see them, they're just buried. Buried. And now this one is called Mungaki. Kiki. And this one I found really interesting. This is also called One Tree Hill. It doesn't have a tree on it. It has a big obelisk. And just look at this place. Look at these terraces. And they're trying to say that these are natural terraces and that this is a volcano. And because it was a hill, they took advantage of it. Gosh, I wish I could get a better picture for you guys. Gosh, it's not the best, is it? Gosh, it's all blurred. Come on, Google Maps, you can do better than that. Oh, you can see, the shape of this top bit. Very, sort of citadel shaped. It's got a big rounded bit here, but all this sort of back end does look like a citadel, but I can't get down lower. And on top, this is an obelisk. Let's see if we can get down and have a look at the obelisk. We should be able to get in there. Alright, here we go. So you can see all old bricks, very, very old work here. And on top, big obelisk. You can see Google haven't married the pictures together and it looks like it's lopsided with a big cut through it. That's just Google. Yeah, big obelisk. And you can see it's got a big point on the top and like this, just completely old world, building this. And this again we're told is a fort. This was, originally built as a fort, a pa by the Maoris or for the Maoris, or they found it, or whatever the story is. And then it was turned into a fort, so all the brickwork was done, they're saying, because of course they're saying Maoris didn't have the tech or anyone else before the English arrived to build this kind of structure. But here, we can see these little, star 40 bits where they pop out, and we get the corners. Nice statue up there, and there you go, big obelisk. So that's on the top of One Tree Hill. Oh God, that is the worst contrast ever. And you find this a lot, on interesting ancient old places. They just make it so hard to see sometimes. Have I gone out of Street View? I have. God, it's messing with me. Just want to show you, yeah, so here you can kind of see it. Just all these different levels everywhere. And even if you look in the ground, you can see sort of imprints, different shapes. Over here, see these? Just in the ground, squares around, completely unnatural shapes. Again down here, and look at the right angles here on this wall. And they're telling us that these are just people taking advantage of natural terracing. We have this, look at that. Looks like a natural wall. Looks like an amphitheatre. And if you look down into these side bits, they actually look like there's old steps or something. That's not I think I've got a photo I'll show you. But see, all along here, just the whole place, just squares, right angles. There's just stuff everywhere here. Another bit down here. It goes down to a lower level down here. So this place really looks like just a huge covered, I don't know, complex, town, something. See more walls here. And then this is the top of it. So it could just be a huge covered castle complex or something. We don't know. And of course, all these triangle shapes everywhere. So that was One Tree Hill, Mongakiki. There is one more site I'll put on it that you can have a look at called the Guns of Wellington. This just goes into the military side, how, they're all built by the military, blah, 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 to defend against the Russians and the Japanese, all done in 2 years. But what it does have is he's got a list of a lot of the forts down here. Look at this place. You can just see the peace poppy through the gun slits. So this is a crazy story we're told, that this is built as a fort. I mean, it looks like someone's just poured concrete over the roof. And so, yeah, it's to defend against planes and ships, apparently, because, you know, before people, you know, you want to stop them before they get ashore, but where are they shooting? You know, if there's people down in there, they've got these little holes, they've got no range. They're not really ever going to hit anything, are they? So yeah, I'll leave the link for this as well, just because it does have a list, if it pops up, down here of all the different forts. Here they are here. Palmer's Head, Fort Balance, Fort Apau. So I've only covered a few here, but as you can see, there are more forts, and a lot of these, you know, look like they star forty. And if you are in New Zealand, you know, please go and check them out if you're nearby and you can get some photos. Because, you know, a lot of these, like I said, they just look like buried old, you know, towns, cities, castles, whatever. In my last video, you know, it's called Star Forts Aren't Forts, and I don't think any of these are forts. They're old towns. They're places where people lived, you know, they didn't war. They were the complete opposite. People lived and built these places to harmonize energy so that they could live in peace, not so they could create war. This is just the story we're given because they love to reverse everything. Okay, so there you go. This was Star Forts of New Zealand. So thanks for spending some time with me, and I shall catch you on the next upload. Bye for now. Autodidactic channel.